Right, and Nottingham Forest, Premier League survival may be assured, but they face a battle to keep hold of Elliot Anderson. Head coach Vitor Pereira has spoken about his midfielder today.
He's a pure talent. He has a lot of talent, and he has a strong character. He doesn't have afraid of nothing. He's a player that, when we are struggling, he wants the ball. He wants to make the last pass. He wants to create. He wants to score. He wants to do everything. And this is the profile that he can fly. He can fly. Of course, he can fly. I hope he can fly with us next season. We'll see.
Can't confirm that then. An exclusive.
I cannot. We cannot. In football, I can leave. Everyone can leave. Just the club will stay. We know that the club will stay in the Premier League. Will compete in Premier League next season. The other players and the manager and everyone, we don't know if we'll be here or not.
Great character, isn't he, Vitor Pereira? Just talking of Anderson, there's a bit of a spoiler alert, but he wasn't included in the Young Player of the Year or the Player of the Year nominations. Do you think that's unlucky, given the season he's had?
100%, yeah. I think that's a standing player. For me, he's been, phenomenal. And how he's sort of slipped under the radar, not been amongst that, is just absolutely ludicrous. It really is. Every time I've seen him this season, he's been outstanding. Hence, all the top clubs seem to want to get his signature. He's the closest I've seen to Steven Gerrard. That's how much I feel he is. He's got that intensity, his play, his bite about his game. Very, very good player, and Forest have got a super talent on their hands.
That's high praise, that is. He has been linked, not with Liverpool, he's been linked with Manchester City, Manchester United. Where would he fit better, do you feel?
It'd be down to his choice, but I think personally, I think he'd be looking at Manchester City, if I'm honest. I think he'd suit the way Pep plays. As I said about his intensity, he could add all sorts to Manchester City just because of what he brings. For me, as I said, he's got so much ability. He can run games, and with more quality. I'm not saying Forest haven't got more quality, but you're stepping into a City side where you're flurried.
Would he start though, do you think?
I think he'd have to go and start. I really do. I think Rodri obviously has had that injury, which you'd think he would come back very strong. But yes, I think looking in that midfielder, he cannot not go to City and not start. I don't think it'd be a sort of a Calvin Phillips situation where he goes in and we don't see him again. I think he's got too much about him not to go to a Manchester City and not getting that starting 11. And that's why I think Pep's a big admirer of him, as many managers are in this league, because he's got sheer potential and talent. Yeah,
he has had quite the ridiculous season, hasn't he? If he did move, Carve, who would be best placed, do you think, to get him?
I think a couple of months ago you would have said definitely Manchester City. But obviously now the resurgence of Manchester United, the fact that it looks like Michael Carrick's going to stay, they're back in the Champions League as well, Casemiro is going to be leaving, question marks over the future of Manuel Ugarte as well. So I think if he was to go to United, he would almost become one of the main men straight away. Whereas I think at City, he would probably have a bit more on his plate. It'd be harder to break into that team and play regularly week in, week out, especially if Rodri signs a new contract. Nice position for him to be in if he's got a choice.
Yeah, but given the form that he showed this year, you wouldn't want to go to a club where he was going to be on the bench, though, would you?
No, I don't see any point in him doing that. No. I think that'd be one thing he'd have to view, and it's a good point that Carlo makes. If he goes into a Manchester United, he's got to be part of possibly a building process that they're going to have there, because they're going to be players that are going to be going out. Michael has done a brilliant job. That might even give him a little box ticker that if it was Michael knows that sort of position, it might just suit him. But I think if he's going to, personally, I think it'd be a City for me, because I think he's good enough to get in that City side. I just think he's got too much quality, but he might want to be part of that process of Manchester United. As Carlo said, they are starting to find their feet a bit. If they can bring some new bodies in, he would be probably the key factor and the main man there.
Fascinating to know what happens when the window opens. We'll keep you across it all, of course. OK, let's turn our attentions to the Premier League now, because they have announced nominations for their seasonal awards. So let's start with the managers as they are revealed behind us here. I mean, interestingly, I guess the one in the middle stands out, Michael Carrick. I mean, he's only been in charge 15 games, but he's right up there in terms of, you know, what they think he's done this season.
Yeah, there's one missing off here, though.
Oh, yeah.
Unai Emery's not on there, neither.
He didn't
but,
make the
okay.
shortlist, did he?
No, I mean,
Well,
Michael. Yeah, Michael's been. I mean, he's been a breath of fresh air, hasn't he, since he's come into the club and transformed, made them believe again. I do put that down to really, and it's been a bit of a free hit for him, but he has had to step. I was impressed with him when he was at Borough, to be honest. I really liked his tactical side. I like the way he comes across in the media. You know, he keeps himself to himself, and I do think he really does suit that role that he's got at Manchester United. Credit to what he's done. You know, really pushed them into a situation now where they're sitting third in the Premier League. You have to take your hat off to him, because that isn't an easy role to go into with the pressure and expectations on. I think what's gone for him as well is that being out of all the cup competitions, the focus has just been on the Premier League. I don't feel there's been an awful lot of pressure on Manchester United or expectation since Ruben Amorim left the club, which has probably left a real nice feeling for him to just come in and just have that little bit of free pressure to go and take the club forward, which he has done brilliantly.
Yeah.
So he's for definitely, you know, him and Keith Andrews for me have been phenomenal. I think I've got to say, you know, Keith, lots of people just didn't expect him to go into Brentford and take them to that next level.
Everyone had them down actually already at the beginning of the season, didn't they?
I was one of them, and you know, I'm sorry, Keith, but you know, you look at Keith going in there, and I think people didn't realise that Keith comes with a real solid background of coaching. You know, they all thought he was a set piece coach, and that was it. He's a very good coach. He's been around, you know, the international scene. He speaks well. He comes across again in the media. He's young, he's vibrant, and he's got some really refreshing ideas. So, I mean, that's really a standout one for me, to be honest with you, because of the people that have said Brentford will go down and he'll get sacked.
Yeah.
Look at where they are, you know, potentially in Europe, which is phenomenal for a football club that had a great manager under Thomas Frank. He's gone on and took them to that next level.
Yeah. Are you surprised, though? I mean, seriously, you're surprised that Unai Emery isn't in that list?
I am, to be honest, because, and I'm not, listen, I know I'm going to talk Villa, but I think the reason why I say it is that, you know, Villa sit sort of fifth in the table. They're in a Europa final. And the start that they had to the season, you know, you're thinking that it's not going to be Villa's season.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say is progression of what he's done. You know, he's had him in the Europa Conference League, he's had him in the Champions League. This season, I think he's gone against a lot of football clubs and really pushed. I mean, not so long ago, he was talking about Villa potentially winning the Premier League. Yes, it was a long shot, but they were right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
And yes, they've dropped away, but I just think with the squad that he's had, and he hasn't been able to buy because of the financial fair play rules and not being able to bring the squad and the players that he wanted, I think he's done an absolutely unbelievable job. That's a squad of players that he's probably inherited. Lots of them players were Steven Gerrard's players and players that were there before. So you look at the Villa squad, it hasn't changed an awful lot, and that's why I say I think he deserves to be in that sort of manager of the season.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's probably expected that it might be a bit of a straight shootout between Pep and Arteta. Is it as simple as whoever wins the Premier League should get it?
I think it usually does go down to that, doesn't it? You know, for so many reasons. You know, just looking back there at Areola, who's done an unbelievable job. I mean, these are top managers that have gone on and produced, but it usually will